right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, the 2025 Florida Pro, Logan Franklin's qualifying opportunity for the 2025 Mr. Olympia. Logan wins, and I think he won relatively easily. In second place, you had Everson Costa from Brazil. Logan looked incredible here. I think this was very, very similar to the look that he brought to the Arnold Classic. A very well-conditioned version of Logan. I mean, it's hard to tell, some of the initial videos that came out weren't the highest quality, and I talked to some people that were at the show, and they said the lighting there just wasn't the best. It wasn't super flattering. So I'm trying to include the most high-quality videos that I could find of Logan here, but that same conditioning that he brought to the Arnold with a little bit of added size. A lot of people in the comments were saying that this is Logan's best look ever. And I mean, as far as the level of detail goes, the lines that Logan brought to this show, I mean, obviously Logan has a great structure, but his conditioning here was top-notch. Deep, separated, corded hamstrings, probably the most striated glutes on stage, absolutely peeled to the bone. Personally, I still think that the Arnold, conditioning-wise, was maybe Logan's best look, and maybe he's saving a little bit in the tank to really, truly peak for the Olympia, because this is so close to the show. This is so, like one of the last possible minute qualifying opportunities for the Olympia. And that's why I know he was very confident in his physique, because essentially, had he not won this show, there's a good chance he would have missed the Olympia this year. So he was definitely very confident picking one of the last possible qualifying opportunities. But it could also be the lighting. I looked back at the Arnold video, and to me, he just looks so spectacular there, but he looks spectacular here too, conditioning-wise. And it could very well be just that the Arnold had much superior lighting to this. But I think, we're going to talk about a couple classic physique guys in this video, the top guys. We're going to talk about the latest guest posing from Ramon. We're going to talk about another update that just came out of Terrence Ruff and Ruff Diesel. And we talked about Mike Sommerfeld a lot yesterday. I genuinely think that this version of Logan, now that we know for sure that he's going to the Olympia, I think this version of Logan will not only be first call-out, I think he's a top 4 contender here. I think Logan could be in that top 4 this year with Ramon, Terrence, and Mike. And I think it's interesting because if you think about last year's Olympia, you had Urs and you had Chris Bumstead. Those were kind of the tall guys in that first call-out group, in that top 5 group. Those were the tall guys. And I think Ramon is relatively tall, too. I think he's like 5'10". But, I mean, if you think about Mike, you think about Ruff Diesel, I feel like there's kind of a gap now in that first call-out for a tall guy. You've got, these top 2 guys that I think will probably be in that top 3, both Mike and Ruff. They're definitely shorter guys. And I feel like in the absence of Urs and Chris, there's room for another tall classic physique in those top spots. I mean, Breon will be in there. He'll probably still be top 6. He's a shorter guy. And a lot of people, especially when it comes to classic, have their opinions on what they prefer. Not only what they consider to be a classic physique, but there's a lot of guys that like the shorter version of a classic physique. And there's a lot of guys that prefer the taller version of a classic physique and the way that that frame and that structure looks for classic. And I think that this year, especially without Urs and Chris Bumstead in that top 5 range, I think there's an opening, and I think a guy like Logan is the guy to fill that spot, which is one of the things that I really enjoy about classic physique, and I think makes it so dynamic and exciting, is we're so used to the first call-out at the Classic Physique Olympia being so many different types of physiques. And that's what I say when, classic is a more ambiguous and a little bit more fluid of a standard. Like, what is classic? And that's why when you get these first call-outs, all the physiques look really different. And I genuinely think when you look at this footage of Logan from the Florida Pro, I think this version of Logan is a top 6, top 4 Olympian. I think he's going to really be in the mix this year and maybe even be higher than that. I mean, I'm a big Logan Franklin fan. Maybe he's even higher than I'm predicting he'll be. I think he'll be as high as 4th. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What do you think of this version of Logan that won the Florida Pro, and where do you think he's going to land at the Olympia? Now, Terrence Ruffin, he also posted another physique update today showing off the condition that he's in. You can see, the detail on his glutes and hamstrings. He's getting, obviously, we're less than 5 weeks out now from the Olympia. We're getting pretty close. And I think there's many contrasting points between Ruff Diesel's physique and Logan Franklin's physique. Logan Franklin is taller. Ruff Diesel is shorter. Logan has been bringing a different level of condition than what we've seen from Terrence. I thought Terrence looked good at the New York and at the Pittsburgh, but I still think his condition was leaving something to be desired. And that's why I wanted to talk about these updates, because you're seeing at 5 weeks out deep cuts, a lot of detail. You're seeing striated glutes. You're seeing the detail in the hamstrings. And this is what we saw from Logan Franklin on stage today. And seeing this version of Ruff Diesel, that's what we need to see from him. He's already got the shape. He's got a very well-balanced, symmetrical, proportioned physique. He's a great poser. Him and Logan have that in common. But I think for him to be back in that top 2 range conversation for winning the Classic Physique Olympia, he needs to be drier, more detailed, tighter than he was at both Pittsburgh and New York. And I think based on this update, that's what we're seeing. And let me know which type of physique you prefer. Do you prefer a Ruff Diesel or do you prefer a Logan Franklin? I'd say they're 2 of my favorite physiques in Classic Physique, and they're both very different. Now, we also got a guest posing from Ramon Dino today, another guy that I consider to be a top 4 guy at the Olympia. Even though he slipped a little bit last year, I think he's going to be back in the mix this year. I just think he was off last year, and every indication that we've seen from him going into the Olympia this year, he looks like he's back on track. Obviously, he was in the news recently for talking about eventually going to open bodybuilding, but wanting to stay in Classic for a couple years and chase that title. I think Ramon will be back in the mix, and that's the interesting thing about this is now you've got 3 guys, and that's kind of why I consider them to be in that top 3 range. Ramon, Terrence, and Mike, they all have one big thing in common, and that is that they were all runner-up to Chris Bumstead at one point in their career. And so all 3 of them at one point in their career were considered to be potentially the heir to the throne, even though I think the gap between Chris and all of these guys was pretty significant. I don't think Chris was, he didn't. He won 6 Olympias. I don't think he was ever going to lose to any of them. But which one of them is the next up? I think Ramon has probably, next to Logan, I think some of the updates that we've seen from Ramon, including this one, has impressed me the most. I think where the criticism of Mike being too big or too muscular or whatever, I think Ramon has a good balance of being on the more muscular side of Classic Physique, but not being too muscular and having it like very well proportioned throughout his physique. I think that he is a bigger Classic guy for sure. He is a more muscular Classic guy, and we've seen that with the body weights that he gets up to in the offseason. But I don't think he's pushing that threshold as much as Mike is when it comes to the size and certain body parts, kind of being overwhelming. Like Mike has an overwhelming chest. I think he's got an overwhelming lower body. He's got a back that I think could compete with 212 guys. Ramon is more muscular, but he's more balanced, I think, with that muscle. You don't really have like a super overwhelming body part on Ramon. And I also hope to see from Ramon this year, I think he needs to obviously hit his peak correctly, get that conditioning that he needs to be back in the mix, but his posing as well. If you have Logan and Terrence in that first call-out, in that top 4, top 5, those are 2 of the best posers that we've ever seen in Classic Physique. And I think that Ramon is going to need to step up his posing game to compete with them. And I think we're going to have a really tight battle at the Olympia this year. As I look at, how kind of fortunate we are to get all these physique updates every single week going into the Olympia as we get closer and closer, I was more impressed by Ramon and Logan, but now it's like everybody is posting such impressive updates. It's really hard to say. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Who is your pick to win the Classic Physique Olympia 2025? Now, next up in the news, Stephane Matala, a.k.a. Stephane NFC, a.k.a. the French Ramon Dino, has confirmed that he's going to be doing the Tsunami Pro in France. Now, initially, he was posting physique updates, him and his coach, that were saying things like they had 2 dates on them. They were saying like 13 and 14 or 13 and 15 weeks out. So it looked like early on in the prep, he was going to be doing one of or both maybe the Italy show and this Germany show that's coming up. But now he's confirming it's France, potentially just France, because the Tsunami Pro is going to be September 27th, so that's where he's making his open debut. And that's going to be after the Olympia qualification deadline ends, so even if he wins, he won't be qualifying for this year's Olympia. It would be for next year. And like I said, when he was posting those physique updates in the beginning of his prep, he had 2 shows that were like a week or 2 apart. And the next open show is after the Olympia, and it wouldn't be until October 18th, so almost a month after the France show, and that would be the British Grand Prix. Then you also have a show in Mexico that same weekend. Then you also have a show in Spain, it looks like, a week after that, the EVLS, Prague rather. Prague is a week after that. So I don't think he's doing another show. It looks like France might be the only one, even though early in his prep they were posting that he was doing 2. It looks like it might just be the one. So I think that's why, well, that's obviously why you're not seeing him on the competitor list for Italy, and it looks like you're probably also not going to see him on the competitor list for the Europa show next week. But looking at these updates, he looks really good. You can see, this whole prep really, you can see the deep striations in his chest. Supposedly, he's 250 pounds here. So 30 pounds or so heavier than his classic physique weight limit was. Actually, I believe his classic physique weight limit would have been 212. So he's almost 40 pounds heavier than his classic physique weight limit. His legs look crazy here. I would like to see him a little bit drier, like overall drier, because I feel like you've got some body parts on his physique that look more conditioned than others. Like his midsection doesn't look as dialed in and dry as the rest of him does. And I'm still kind of curious to see if his back matches his condition from the front, because he is the weakest from the back and he's not showing any back poses. He posted a ton of pictures here and none of them are from the back. But I look at it and I feel like, yeah, his chest has really deep striations, and you guys can let me know if you disagree. But I feel like the midsection just doesn't look as dialed as like the rest of his upper body does. And the legs, I feel like they look big. They just don't look as dry as I feel like his upper body looks. And again, you guys can let me know if you disagree. But I feel like, throughout the chest, shoulders, and arms, he looks really dry, really striated, really conditioned. Then like the midsection and the legs, they look good, but they almost don't look as conditioned as the chest, shoulders, and arms do. Which, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. But his open bodybuilding debut will for sure be the Tsunami Pro in France. So we can look forward to that, and it will not be either the Germany or the Italy show confirmed. But I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the video there. I may do a third video today. I did the half Thor video, I did this video, and depending on if we get more updates before the Italy Pro, I might do a final last-minute Italy Pro preview. So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for that. But if not, I believe the timeline for the Italy Pro should probably put the prejudging like very early morning Eastern time. If you're watching from the States, like by early morning, I mean, I think maybe like 5 a.m., 4 or 5 a.m., something like that. So if not, I'll probably just pull an all-nighter and try to crank out the prejudging video at like 5 in the morning or whenever it happens, because there's a big time difference with Italy. I think it's going to end up being very early morning our time for the prejudging. So if not, that'll be the next video. But anyway, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys, appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.